Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Heavenly Parent Holy Community Oceania Hundoke, together with Rev Yutaka Yamada. Today is Wednesday, the 8th of October 2025, or the 17th of August in the 13th year of Chongyol, and it's the 40th day of our 41st 40-day condition. So thank you all for coming, and let's begin with a bow to our true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind, Chanji Champung Nyingye, Kyungmae, Paro. And let's recite our family pledge, both in Korean and English.
가존맨세 8. 천일국 주인, 우리 가족은 참사랑을 중심하고 천일국 시대를 맞이하여 절대 신앙, 절대 사랑, 절대 복종으로 신의 일체 이상을 이루어 지산 천국과 천산 천국의 해방권과 속방권을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 8. Our family, the owner of Chongyol, pledges, having entered the era of Chongyol, to achieve the ideal of God and human beings united in love through absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience, and to perfect the realm of liberation and complete freedom in the kingdom of God on earth and in heaven by centering on true love. Thank you, and just pray again Mother's prayer that she gave at the New Year celebration breakfast with Chongyol leaders in the 1st of January 2024. The year of the Blue Dragon, the 12th year of Chongyol. In this year of the Blue Dragon, all negative energy will dissipate. And now, as we are approaching the 13th year, a number symbolizing completion, we must finalize all aspects of the entrance ceremony into Chongwon-gun and the Chongyol Sanctum. Just as the heavens have blessed us with pure white snow, completely free of shadows and negative energy, this year is of great importance. Therefore, we must all unite for the sake of the providence. So let's enter this hopeful 12th year of Chongyol fully prepared in every way with perfect order and organization. Arju. Thank you, and let's give a warm welcome to Rev Yutaka as he shares this morning.
Okay. You can see it, right?
You can see your first slide, yeah.
Okay. Good morning, our brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining today's morning Hondoke. Today's the Wednesday and also the last day of this 40 days Johnson condition. We can also reflect 40 days and prepare for the next 40 days. So past 40 days, there are many things also happened in our movement. The missionary, inherit of heavens, love and blessing. Our missionary, Shinchil, Shining Human Missionary, visited to Oceania. And also now our Tirumada is in the detention center. So current situation, our movement is not easy situation, but Mother said time will pass and surely truth will be revealed. So, and also don't stop the progress. We will receive those expectations and hope of true Mother and we will go forward. So each day, each moment is a precious time. Let's continuously go forward and let's do our best. Our remaining time of 2025 is also less than 3 months. Let's really reflect and then offer that chance on. Okay, thank you. So let's start. Today message is from the only begotten daughter, true mother in the words of true parents. So let's study together. The fall of humanity's first ancestors and unfulfilled ideal of creation. Mrs. Ginny, please. Please unmute yourself.
God the Creator brought all things in heaven and earth into being, and then created the man and woman who were to become humankind's first ancestors. God gave them a responsibility to fulfill during their period of growing to maturity. They were to demonstrate absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience before God, to stand in the position in which they would receive God's blessing. Yet personal desires arose along the way. The self-centered ambition, I too can become like God, gave birth to fallen humanity and the present world, which has no connection to God. The all-knowing and almighty God is a being who is constant from the beginning to the end. This means that God cannot nullify the principles of creation established from the beginning. Therefore, God had to begin the bitter and sorrowful providence of restoration through indemnity.
Yes, thank you. Heavenly Parent had a plan and vision for all humanity. When human beings would be created, even people cannot be perfected immediately, but they can be completed through fulfilling their portion of responsibility and passing the growing period, and also fulfill and complete themselves. So in this process, plan and hope, there is God's also the bigger blessing. But our first human ancestor could not fulfill that, and they went to the cause of the human fall. That's why God could not see the fulfillment of the ideal creation and face those miserable or suffering moment. But God accepted all reality or result of human fall and still believe them and believe us and leading the providence of restoration. So if God can erase all humanity or all fairness and reset and to start again, if he could have done like this, how easy was it? But all humanity are actually the children of God, children of Heavenly Parent, and Heavenly Parent is the parents of all humanity. So even children became any kind of status or situation, Heavenly Parent could not give up all children. That's why behind of the history of the restoration, we could also find the heart or love or wish of parents, or heart of love and wish of our Heavenly Parent. Please.
All things in heaven and earth were created to reflect the image of God, the Creator. Lastly, God created a man and woman as the ancestors of humankind and gave them a responsibility. That responsibility was to perfect themselves during their growing period so that they would meet God's standard, but they were not able to do that. As a result, the fallen human race that descended from them has no relationship with God. But God having made all things with eternity in mind, cannot change the creation simply because things went wrong. Unable to abandon fallen humanity, God began the historical providence of salvation. Choosing a central people to work through, God carried out the providence of salvation by restoration through indemnity, working from the individual level to the family, tribe, and people until a foundation on a national level was possible. After a long period of 4,000 years, heaven sent the only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, the one whom God could directly relate and call my Son.
Yes, thank you. God have given the growing period and portion of responsibility to humanity. And through fulfilling these things, human beings could be perfected, and also first ancestor could be the true parents and become the way to fulfill God's ideal. But it was not fulfilled, so the providence restoration has been begun. So we can see through the Bible history, we can see the history of humanity or restoration. So the finding or establish the lost only begotten son and only begotten daughter or true parents. This was the purpose of the providence of restoration. So when we listen about the true mother's message, what was really different point between divine principle and mother's message? Of course, basically similar, but point of emphasis is a little bit different. So for example, this point, mother is talking about a human fall, but mother is not so much emphasizing about the sexual relationship or lost or kind of the following the own desire. Mother is emphasizing about the responsibility and also growing period. All people have to go through this process and have to overcome. And God is the one who prepared this path for all humanity. So True Mother is emphasizing at this point. Of course, among or under the process of growing period, have to keep the purity and have to grow up well. So this meaning is automatically included. But mother's emphasizing point is instead of emphasizing of the one action, but also explaining about more bigger picture about fulfillment of possible responsibility. So we can see those little bit different point. So when we talk about the human fall, we cannot say just one action of the sexual relationship. There are actually many lacking point. For example, the relationship between God and them, about the relationship of hyojong or artistic connection. Those point was also the lacking point, and those point also one of the cause of the human fall. And if they could have repented even after human fall immediately and accepted all their mistakes, then surely the result of the providence uh, have also different. So we could see that was also the lacking point or cause of the history of human fall. That's why that's emphasizing of the portion of responsibility and growing period. This point are really important for our human ancestors and even also for ourselves. So how we could fulfill this portion of responsibility and growing period. This is really the core point. Please.
You cannot fathom the immense joy and excitement with which God established the will and brought the entire universe into being, including Adam and Eve. Out of the desire to complete the work of creation together with Adam and Eve, God intended to bless them after they had reached maturity. God gave Adam and Eve a commandment not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Had they listened to God, fulfilled their responsibilities, and reached perfection, they would have come to stand in a position equal to God's and to possess equal authority. However, Adam and Eve failed to act according to God's will. That was the fall. God, having created human beings with an eternal purpose, could not simply abandon them. In truth, it would have been easier to abandon the first human beings and begun creation anew. However, owing to the circumstances, instead, God unfolded the history of the providence of salvation.
Thank you. I will read the first part. You cannot fathom the immense joy and excitement with which God established the will and brought the entire universe into being, including Adam and Eve, out of the desire to complete the work of creation together with Adam and Eve. God intended to bless them after they had reached maturity. So we can see the things. This moment, this world, is the world which God wished and also prepared. So immense joy and also great happiest moment. This was the dream, but still it was not fulfilled. So our brothers and sisters, have you experienced this kind of the great joy or excitement together with God or not? God prepared and planned that kind of the beautiful moment. And God wanted to have this moment together with all of creation, together with children, and together with our ancestors. So that was God's dream and God's hope. The joy of parents, the joy of children. So that was the God's dream and God's hope. There is no thought of corruption there, and it exists only for the joy of all people and to feel it together. What a beautiful world that would be. The present fallen world, however, is a history that began from betrayal, sorrow, pain, wounds, and resentment. If you believe you are betrayed, used, wounded, and killed, a world completely opposite to the ideal. That's why to completely turn all of this upside down, this is what our Heavenly Parent is doing and what the true parents are now striving to accomplish. God desires this, has planned it, and is longing for that very moment. Therefore, that day will surely come, and we must be the ones to bring it forth. Please.
The Bible tells us that God had an ideal and dream and created one man and one woman. But God could not bring that dream to fruition. You have already learned from the divine principle the reason that God, the omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent creator of all things, was unable to interfere with the fall of Adam and Eve. History has been a sorrowful course for God, who had no choice but to carry out the providence indirectly to save fallen humanity. Even in this world, when people commit crimes, they are absolved only after serving time in prison or paying a fine. Similarly, fallen people cannot come into the presence of God without indemnifying their sins through their own effort. God's providence of restoration has had to go through such a sad process.
Thank you. God has dream, but it was not fulfilled. Our human history, which was started from human fall, was, we can say, the history of the indemnity or indemnify of our sin. So, from the first ancestor to our current situation, when we see our history, this history is the history of sin, and those sin are continuously inherited through our human ancestors, and also the history of the indemnity. So we can see, even we see the past, all our ancestors or human history, all the moment was the suffering or difficult moment, and still this history are continuing until current society. Please.
God had the dream of living together with our first ancestors. Not wishing to remain alone, God wanted to dwell within a family, relating to that family as both their father and their mother. However, in order for Adam and Eve, who were still in the process of growing to maturity, to come to exercise the same authority and power as God, they needed to fulfill their 5% portion of responsibility. If Adam and Eve had fulfilled their portion of responsibility and humanity had developed throughout history as a single lineage centered on God, the challenges we face today, such as religious and racial conflict, would not exist. The omniscient and omnipotent God can know no failure. God has waited for human beings to fulfill their responsibility and raise to a position equal to God's. Today, there are 4 great religions that have expanded and developed worldwide. But even the people who follow those 4 religions have not understood God's true will. While all serving the one God, those religions have pursued peace and happiness for humanity. However, they have been unable to unite because they have all developed centered on themselves.
Yes, thank you. So what is God's dream? God's dream is to fulfill the world where the children, God, and family live together and create those beautiful world. So please see these things. Even God had plan. The fulfillment of personal responsibility is also the plan of God. So all humanity have to do the things by own effort or own investment and have to be completed. So when we see about God's plan of the family, this is also same or similar for our family. Even our family or our society is still not the original world, under the foreign world, foreign culture, or together with the foreign nature. So we cannot say it's totally same with God's ideal or the same kind of the structure, but when we see our family, we can say there are many similar things. If you are the receive the blessing and you have children and you can understand, we are standing here as the parents and we will do many things for our children, invest love and also concern and embrace for our children all the time. But in the process of the growing period or decision making for our children, each moment our parents cannot intervene and cannot decide behalf of our children. Each children by own will and knowledge or wisdom. They have to overcome, they have to decide, and they have to fulfill. So we can feel also the similar heart together with our heavenly parent. Maybe if first ancestor was not fall, then maybe this process was easier, I believe. But currently, people could not recognize the existence of our heavenly parent, could not recognize the purpose of our life, spiritual world, and even we have the good heart and evil heart, fallen nature, or self-centered mindedness. So we can see there are burden like this compared with the true person or unfallen person. But we can also recognize our God's plan, God's hope and expectation for us are same. So how we can fulfill these things? Even Mother is mentioning there are many religion. Religion is teaching these things, but still many religion or many religious person could not recognize the real wish and hope of God and also God's providence. Please.
Throughout human history, many people have cultivated themselves and dreamed of a better world, but that world has yet to be properly realized. Due to the fall of our first ancestors, people in today's society have no connection to God's purpose of creation. That is why the Bible refers to the people of this world as wild olive trees and the coming Lord as the true olive tree. The wish of the wild olive trees is to meet the true olive tree and become true olive trees themselves, for only then can they gain their salvation.
Thank you. In order to fulfill or in order for completion of the providence, many people had been efforting and suffering and also sacrificed, but it was not fulfilled yet because Mother said, the wish of the wild olive tree is to meet the true olive tree and become true olive trees themselves, for only then can they gain their salvation. They effort, but they need to meet the true olive tree. So only the person's effort is not enough. The meeting with the true olive tree is also the necessary. So we can see those history. Please.
According to the principles of creation, human beings descended from ancestors who failed to fulfill their responsibility cannot come directly before God. Fallen human beings who are wild olive trees can become true olive trees only through true parents.
Yes, so we need true parents. Please.
Since God entrusted human beings with responsibility, a human being must appear who is able to assume the position of the true parents and become God's and bring God's providence and dreams to fulfillment.
Centering on true parents, we will fulfill the portion of responsibility together. Please.
God's purpose of creation and most cherished wish was for Adam and Eve to become one with God and build a family reaching 3 generations. However, due to the error committed by Eve during her course of growth, God was unable to establish Adam's family. That is why we say the world today is a fallen world, a world of which Satan has become the owner. To counter this, many religions came into existence during the course of history, all of them seeking after goodness. God anointed the people of Israel and the Jewish faith to work through them.
Yes, Mother said, God's purpose of creation and most chaste wish was for Adam and Eve to become one with God and build a family reaching to 3 generations. This is the purpose of God, and this is the basic structure. So we can see the family with 3 generations. If people could fulfill this ideal 3 generation relationship in each family, then it's called this relationship and culture will continue for our future and future descendants. So I heard about the True Parents message. True Parents said, we are, as the breast center family, we have to take responsibility until our grandchildren's blessing. So not only our children, but including our last grandchildren blessing. So 3 generation and 4 generation, this culture, this tradition or environment or protection are really important. That's why True Parents is emphasizing our family is important, or parent and children, of course husband and wife. If we could create those ideal culture inside of family, this become the starting point of the ideal family future and even also the God's providence. So once again, we can recognize this wish of God, the 3 generations family. Please.
Through the Bible, we can understand that human history is the history of the providence of restoration, through which God is trying to achieve the purpose of creation that was lost when Adam and Eve committed the original sin and became false parents. The key points of Messianic thought is, as it is described in the Bible, is that the Messiah, that is the true parents, should appear to bring rebirth to all humanity in place of Adam and Eve, who became false parents. God's original purpose of creation was for Adam to become the true father of humankind and for Eve to become the true mother of humankind. In order to return to the purpose of creation, God had no choice but to carry out the providence of recreating Adam. That is the core of the providence behind preparing the chosen people of Israel and bringing about the birth of Jesus.
Yes, thank you. This world is not the original world. God is involving, or God is guiding this history and try to reach the completion of the providence of restoration. So we can see those are human history and the behind of God's work. So Mother said, God's original purpose of creation was for Adam to become the true father of humankind and for Eve to become the true mother of humankind. So exactly God's providence is to let only begotten son and only begotten daughter born on this earth and to let them become true parents. So this is the final slide today, please.
God created one man and one woman with the intention of establishing 3 generations. For God to see the 3 generations, the 3rd generation, Adam and Eve had to marry. However, they fell before they had reached maturity, before they married. Consequently, human history has unfolded as a history with Satan, not God, as its master. This is why the Saviour is necessary. The purpose of Christianity and many other religions that have enlightened humankind has been to open a path for people to live good lives within this fallen, evil world. Please reflect on God's purpose of creation. Jesus was a man. What does a man need? He needs a woman. The people of Israel, their religious leaders, and Mary should have united and attended Jesus and supported him to establish a family. Through the divine principle, we know that God was unable to intervene in the fall because of the human portion of responsibility. Similarly, attending the Lord is also part of the human portion of responsibility.
Yes, thank you. So we can see the God's dream or wish. There is 3 generations. So in the Old Testament, the Messiah was emphasized. And in the Christianity, also the second coming of the Messiah was emphasized. But the Messiah only is not the God providence, including only begotten daughter, and including the having true parents, and to create the true family. This is the purpose of the providence. So we can see those moments, and all humanity finally have to meet the Lord, our true parents and our heavenly parents. This is also one of the portion of responsibility. So today we share about the true mother's message. So we can see the emphasizing point of human portion of responsibility and growing period. So this process is for everyone without exception. Even our true father, even our true mother, or even anyone have to go this path and have to fulfill the portion of responsibility and growing period. And our future generation is also same. How we can understand these things, how we can create the environment for our next generation. This is also the method for next generation to fulfill more easily and connect with our heavenly parent and true parents. So there was God's dream, and still we are going on this path together. So appearance of true parents, and now our father already spiritual world. So our true mother's existence on this earth, how important it is. So mother is now in the detention center. Our awareness is also mother's health. We have to continuously pray, and in the same time, we will fulfill our portion of responsibility, investment in each place, and offer the victory to our heavenly parent and true parents. So today is the last fourth day of the 40 days, and tomorrow we will start the new 40 days. Let's reflect well and prepare again, and let's create the beautiful moment. So once again, thank you for joining today's morning hundoke. Have a great time. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Rev Yutaka, for sharing with us. Okay. Yeah, so that's really very interesting to reflect on Mother's words, and particularly, fulfilling our responsibility, to achieve the same kind of authority. Sort of like this, there's self-centered ambition. I too can become like God. Was a motivation or for their failure to, fulfill their responsibility, and somehow also showing their ignorance of what, they were going to become. I mean, they should have realized that they were going to achieve the same authority and power as God anyway once they grew up. So this temptation, or this deception from, Lucifer, to tell them that, well, just reflecting about this story. Actually, yesterday we had a couple of guests come to the Peace Embassy, and we were just giving this lecture about the fall, about the, identity of Satan, about, fulfilling responsibility, and the sexual component, yes, brought about the existence of the fallen lineage, but it was because they didn't grow up. They didn't fulfill their responsibility. They didn't wait. till they realized they didn't talk to God. They didn't understand that they needed to meet God's standard, the responsibility to perfect during their growing period, just over and over again, because uh, teaching these actually two brothers from Peru, and they were new. One of the brothers, before we even started, he said straight away that he knew that the fruit was the symbol for the sexual act. But as we went through it, he said he now understood even more how important the responsibility is. Even though it's insignificant to God's, 95%, and ours is just 5%, but it really is, vital. God cannot uh, um, realize his dream without us, and our responsibility ultimately is to choose God's dream as our own, and we need to exercise our own effort. And I highlighted one point in that biblical story of where they felt ashamed, and when they hid in the garden, and God said, what happened? What did you do? Adam said that it was Eve. Uh, uh, it didn't say Eve. The Bible puts it as woman, and then Eve said, "Oh no, it was Lucifer, the angel." And it occurred to me that, oh, that's when they gave up their responsibility. Because if you take ownership for your mistake, then that's realizing your responsibility, because you have to pay the consequence. As Mother said, a fine or a imprisonment or whatever is required to fix the problem. But they passed the buck, and that I realised was actually relinquishing their responsibility, saying, "Hey, it's not me. I didn't do it. The other person did it." And then I realised that Adam gave his responsibility to Eve by blaming her, and then Eve, who had then taken on the responsibility of both Adam and Eve, then passed it to Lucifer. And Lucifer, at that moment, ended up dominating God's children, because they gave Lucifer the responsibility, saying, "Oh, he's the one." But Lucifer should never have had any responsibility. Lucifer was just created to administer and look after them and follow God's will. But he was then given the responsibility of Adam and Eve through the process of the fall. And it occurred to me, while teaching that to them and listening today, truly our responsibility is the amazing gift that God gave us to be able to become the same as God. And they were going to get that anyway. But as we know, Satan always tried to do God's will out of sequence, out of order, and thereby taking the love away, instead of being a conduit of God's love to them. And so this whole process of restoration, where we have to meet true parents who fulfill God's will, as the process of us regaining our responsibility. So it's not, I realize that the indemnity part, to pay the price, is the mechanism to regain the responsibility that we gave away. So having accountability and transparency is the one of the aspects of being an owner that takes responsibility for ourselves and the things around us. So, yeah, this just today, reflecting on Mother's words, really how much responsibility is. And as Reverend Yutaka said, Mother's not focusing on sexual sin or the small details of it, but the fact that responsibility was not realized and should have been realized while they were growing. And this highlighted to me, just again, how immature Adam and Eve were, that they couldn't, accept that they made a mistake and hid in shame and afraid of consequences. But they instead of creating a glorious family, they passed on this self-centered attitude to avoid to have shame, because that also highlighted to me that Ham in Noah's family, that he was ashamed of his father, and then that constituted the sin. It was repeating the same thing, and also relinquishing his responsibility. Instead of being together with his brothers, he passed it on to his brothers, to walk backwards and cover his father. So each time it sort of looks like they're doing responsibility, but actually they're relinquishing it and giving it up. And so it's really important. I realized how much we need to do our responsibility and not to pass the buck or to blame others, or but to take ownership of it and just carry out God's will. And by fulfilling God's will, then our desire and God's dream and everything is finally realized. So anyway, some of my thoughts this morning. Thank you, and open up to anyone else who'd like to share. Yes, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, morning, everyone. Just wondering, I think I might have got a partial explanation from what you were saying, John. I just want to ask Reverend Yamada if you could clarify a little bit the statement you made earlier that if Adam and Eve had repented after the fall, things could have been better. It's my understanding that after the consummation of the fall and change of blood lineage, there was very little Adam and Eve could have done until we went through the process of restoration. Anyway, if you could just clarify that statement for me, thank you.
Thank you. Of course, I have to get the word of three parents again. But after human fall, God called Adam, "Where are you? What are you doing?" So at that moment, if he could accept, actually, I am the one who committed. Another person is no problem. Please just judge me, but save them. So if really he repented from the moment, then I think within 3 generations, God could have sent the Messiah, right? I think I read these kind of things. That's why not only just a sexual action, but even after that, there are many ways to be solved, or this becomes also course of the human history. So those moment meaning I already explained.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just add quickly, within our own, within our movement and revelations received, even from Eve, she admitted freely she could never disconnect from Lucifer. She had relationship with him for a long time after that, through her own words. So yeah, okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Wright, go ahead.
Good morning. A little different issue and talking about the season. I think Korea is, I think autumn. It's going to winter. I think actually beautiful, but I think we praying for mothers and but here, I think spring and going to summer. So when we talk about the Garden of Eden, and just we talk about our garden, and look at we have a four fruit tree: cherry, apricot, apple, persimmon. Then look at that tree. They are long prepared winter time, but growing and make it blossom, then provide a little bit honey. The bee is working hard. Bee is working hard. That kind of mission. I don't know how birds got that kind of mission. And without rest, bird is working incredible. Here they are working hard. Yeah, then when each flower get I think mixes the stem and pistil, and then leaf started to grow. The leaf started to grow. I think leaf come later. If leaf become grow fast, bee cannot see to flower. It is incredible. Really, this is all over Garden of Eden. It's really God created, I think, before Adam. I think so much mysterious. It's incredible. I can feel God's love. And yeah, I think really, I think beautiful. We really enjoy God creation. Just share about for season blossom, like spring, then summertime growing, we can harvest. I think autumn time. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Janine, you wanted to say something?
I had my hand up, but you couldn't see it. One thing that I noticed that stood out with the letter that came from headquarters was they spoke about having spiritual maturity. And it really, it just really, struck me. And then this morning, as you were talking, and the reading this morning, that that Adam and Eve blamed as soon as that something happened, they blamed. So Mother is now encouraging us to take responsibility and to have spiritual maturity, not to blame the government, but to see what our responsibility is and to repent for not witnessing enough and not proclaiming true parents enough, and urging us to now take responsibility rather than having a blaming, but being mature spiritually and witnessing. And anyway, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's time now to offer our unison prayer. So I'll just bring up the screen. There it is. Okay, let's pray together. Thank you. Jew, Jew, Jew. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Rev Yutaka, for sharing, and I hope everyone has a great day and see you all again tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, have a good day.
Mm.
A good day.
Mm.